Okay. So now we will speak about the Titan females, and it's probably something that I understand that the people of Israel they don't like me to speak about it because the level of aggressiveness that I now encountering the last like hour or so is tremendously higher than usual. So I understand that they don't want me to speak about it, which is interesting. Let's maybe we should think together. Like what's the reason? But in any case, I'm going to say whatever I wanted to say. It's just an anecdote that probably it's an anecdote because it wasn't like super obvious to me that it's something that they are totally against. Intelligence, people of the intelligence community, they don't like me speaking about them in general, but I speak about them for quite a while now. It's a major topic in whatever I say for a long time because the scumbag surrounds me. Anyway, just as an addendum to the previous video, I need to add something which is very important. Everyone that tells me you should do this and do that in order to save yourself, like this action is required or that action is required, in many ways, I don't know if they understand it, but they mock God. It's a mockery in the face of God, because if God wanted me out of the Nazi prison, he would have created me out of the Nazi prison. God is the reason why I was born in the Nazi prison. Now, it doesn't make any sense that God will create me in the Nazi prison and then will give me the superpowers that I needed in order to get out of the Nazi prison. This would have been possible only if you think that God is like an action movie director that creates like all sorts of like movies for your enjoyment that you will just watch like in your sofa, and there will be after a suspenseful 2 hours you will say, wow, great, the hero escaped in the last minute. So if you think that that's God, then you mock God, because this is not God. God created the heaven and the earth. He's not a movie director. I am here. Also, it should be said that, as I said many times, including today, Israel was doomed before I was even born. They sold us, and I just spoke about it, but it's worth mentioning in this context. So, a logical implication is that I am here in order to see something, to actually, get a proof to something that is not obvious and probably not true, which is that some people in this world actually are, they are willing to move arms and legs for the help of the strangers that have no political power in this world. It's not clear at all. It's probably not true because it is not true. It doesn't happen. But my place here is to see if there is any nation in this world that will move their legs and arms to rescue a person that has no political power because he has no state. Because the state where he was born is a Nazi hell. And he is not known in public, so his existence could be denied like it is denied. But can you find a group of people in this world that will actually move arms and legs, not mouths and tongues, arms and legs, to help this stranger, even though he has no political power, and even though it's not a publicity stunt, because his existence is not known in the public. That's it's not trivial that the answer is yes, and because we see that the answer is no. No, they do not. All of them do not. All of them are willing to move only mouths and tongues. So that's why I'm here. Humanity has a lot to prove, because the sins are many, with regard to the stranger, since long ago. And as I said many times, it's not the first episode. But the conclusion of this episode will certainly be the complete and utter destruction of Israel. But what about the rest of the world? Are these people different? If they are different, they would prove that, not by their mouths and tongues, by moving arms and legs. And they didn't, and they don't. That's why it's a mockery to say do this and that in order to get out of here. It's like saying God is your director, he's like a movie director for your enjoyment. No, my rescue does not depend on anything that I will do or not do. My rescue depends on what other people will do or not do. now for the issue of the Titans. First, the most important thing that should be said with regards to the Titans is that it is not the most important subject, because it's only a secondary issue to the issue of the nature of humans, of Homo sapiens. This is a much more important issue. And I've understood very, very quickly that whoever they are and whatever they do, they couldn't like change humanity in a tremendous way. And moreover, I reached the conclusion that actually they affected humanity even much less than they could have, because of their nature, which I will speak about in a while. But they actually affected humanity even less than you could have expected by their numbers, which is quite a bit. I mean, it's not that few. Initially, I thought it's maybe there are very small amount, but actually there is quite a bit of them, and it's not actually it's actually not the best kept secret in the world. That's another thing that I understand and learned, that actually many, like millions of people in this world know about it. It's not. It's a secret, but it's not. It's a secret that is shared by many people around all over the globe, and that they didn't affect humanity, I mean, tremendously, and even less than you could have expected. They could have, because of their nature, which will be discussed in a while. So they cannot be blamed for the crimes of humanity, because I mean they didn't. I mean they couldn't and they didn't affect humanity in a great way. And although there is another issue, which is, I mean, is more like, I mean, a theological explanation. But I mean, I hope and I believe it with all my heart, even though I understand that some people are less, I mean, susceptible or less prone to like listening to such explanation. But I am very like, I totally like, I mean, accept this explanation, and like, I mean, with all my heart. So I will say it. Yet it's something like it's related to theology and like to the issue of also theology and teleology. Like, I mean, the study of purpose, which is, I mean, all my life, I mean, I was a human being. I thought I'm a human being. I lived among like people that I thought I'm a human being. I mean, I was educated among human beings. I mean, both like, I mean, classical education and like modern, all sort of, and only very lately I discovered that, I mean, that I'm not an Homo sapiens, and there are actually more than Homo sapiens in this earth. Very lately it was actually, I understood it, like only 2019. And it just that doesn't make sense that I mean, that my purpose in this earth, I mean, and I understood that all my life I was, in many ways, I was like, I mean, preparing to fulfill my purpose. And that, I mean, that when you're close to God and when God protects you, and you always, I mean, you should carry a message. I mean, you like you're a servant of the Lord. I mean, it starts when you, I mean, when you are very like, I mean, you know, as Jeremiah said that, I mean, God, I mean, when he was in the womb of his mother, he still like already knew him. But I mean, I don't know if it's in the womb, but I mean, any person, whatever his nature, it could be Homo sapiens as well. I mean, when he's like, it serves like as a messenger, and there were many messengers. I mean, like many prophets, like in the history. So they're I mean, they start like their job, I would say, when they are very young, but they don't know it, because I mean, initially you need to study like for many years. I mean, you don't like, I mean, you don't just, I mean, like, I mean, yeah, I mean, there is like the story of Samuel, which is a kind of exception to the rule, I would say, that, I mean, and I mean, it's like, because he was like anointed to that, like, I mean, by his, so it's, but it's never mind Samuel, but it's like an exception. I mean, but I mean, mostly, I mean, it's not like that. It was Samuel, but it's like more like, I mean, that you need like to study, and you need to be part of like a group for like a long time. It's so you start like by just being a human being for a long time. And no, I should just say, I mean, spoke about it a lot in the past, and it's not the time and place to reiterate, but I completely do not subscribe to the notion, which is common in some cultures, of like, I mean, the idiot prophet or like the lunatic prophet. I know that, I mean, many like cultures, like in the history, actually, I mean, believe to some extent in that, but it's not like, I do not see it that way at all. I'm much more like, I mean, closer to how my Rambam, like Maimonides, and before him Al-Farabi, like a Muslim scholar, wrote about it, which they didn't accept it at all, and my view is like them, like it's not something that I know I understand how it can even be. That it's just I completely don't understand how can a lunatic or like an idiot or like an uneducated person can do it. Anyway, so it doesn't make any sense that I will live my whole life without knowing about those creatures, and then then some people I just discover them, and they will be the focus of like what I do here. It doesn't make any sense. It's like saying whatever you studied all your life, it's not important, because the real issues were always kept a secret from you, and this is not true, because it's not true. Yes, of course, many secrets were kept from me, and like I was in center of huge conspiracy all my life, and almost everyone that knew me, held secrets for me. But nevertheless, they couldn't like create the bubble around me as they tried that in a way that I will be like the slave or the robot. That's what they try to do even to this day, with all the method tricks, the disgusting method tricks that are taking place right now. They still have this illusion that they didn't succeed for almost 40 years, but somehow now they will succeed in like making me the robot. That's their main objective. But they couldn't succeed because, as much as they tried, they couldn't create a complete bubble around me. So I had contact with humans, I understood humans, I studied humans, I learned a lot about humans, and this, I think, is manifested by the way that I actually speak, and by my ability to actually understand even the reality that is secret from me. Now, from teleological perspective, like from the study of purpose, it doesn't make sense that if my purpose is like strongly related to other creatures that presumably have completely different culture and values and history, they will be the focus of everything that I do, and not the creatures that I grew up among them. So that's another reason why the Titans are not the most important thing, and they shouldn't be placed too much blame on them or too much emphasis on them. As I said, I will reiterate because it's important. They actually affected humanity less than they could have. Like if you consider their numbers and like their positions in various states, they actually could have affected humanity much more than they did, and they did not, because of their nature. And another issue that it is closely related, for the reason why they are not that important, is that I remember that I spoke about it like 2 years ago, that I said הלך הזרזיר אצל העורב. It's something that I've said many times, like 2 years ago, like 1.5 years ago, I spoke about the subject. So if you, if some of you actually, listened already then, or like have like access to very old like radio, so הלך הזרזיר אצל העורב, it's like in Hebrew, like proverb. It says that similar bird, they go to be in the vicinity of like which of other like similar birds. Like the bird, you can find the one bird in like close to like the existence of other birds that is similar to it. And that is true. It is not by chance that the Titan culture flourished in Israel. And I understood it very long ago. Even then, at that time, I was actually much more like, I emphasized, my empathy was actually with the Titans, and I considered them like slaves, like me, and like I hated the Israelis for the subjugation, and as you know, with time, it's actually changed. Like that now I care much less than before about it, because I cannot stand like my poverty and my torture. And I think that I should, my duties and my heart should and are with my daughters. I should take care that I am out of this hell, and that my daughters are with me, that they deserve a father, and they deserve a father that can raise them, and not a poor father, but a father that has the means to actually give them anything that they need. And most of all, to be with them. And it's more important than, the fate of another race that, is presumably a little bit of slave, somehow than slave, but also, disgusting, like without a doubt. But at that time, like 2 years ago, I still thought that my empathy was with them actually. But still, even then, I already came to the conclusion that הלך הזרזיר אצל העורב. Even then, I understood that even though like my empathy is with them, like because and I say, still I understood back in the day, like then, that I already understood that it's not by chance that you can find so many of them in Israel. It's because they have they share many similarities with the Israeli culture, and undoubtedly in bad way, in a bad way. I mean, that was the original. The proverb it relates to bad characteristics. It's not that that good people go to be next to good people, which is also good. It should also true, but this proverb specifically is about bad characteristics. I think because of the color of both of these birds, which is black, and I'm sorry, but in the Hebrew, in the Jewish culture, in many other old cultures, the black color, the color was associated with bad associations. So yes, it's even when my sympathies was with the Titans, I understood that they are here in Israel because they are fucked up in a way that is very similar to the way that the Israelis are fucked up. Excuse me for the French, as they say. Pardon my French. They are fucked up. They are fucked up creatures, and the Israelis are fucked up creatures, and they are fucked up in similar ways. And that's why you can find them one next to the other. And that's another reason why they are not that important. And it's much more important for me to speak about Israel and humanity in general, and that's what I do. Now, having said that, I have a few things that I can say about them that some of them I haven't spoken about before, so maybe it's a good opportunity. Now, I should say that throughout all my life, it kept their existence kept for me as a secret. Like a top secret. People did everything that they can. Everyone that knew me. To keep this secret from me, and a whole countless theater show and special operations or movies, as you call them in intelligence community, were created just that I will not know about their existence, and I will think that I'm a normal human being, and they were successful with that until 2019. Only very lately, I started this journey of discovery, and part of it was, of course, and understanding that we have another species here. But so this was very difficult. So it was very difficult to me to learn about these people, because it was such a secret for me. Not only for me, but especially for me, because my life is related to their existence in very strong manners. But nevertheless, it was kept a secret for me that I am that they even exist. Maybe it should be mentioned that it was so important that I will not know nothing about them, because the Israelis always lied about me. They told horrible things about me, and if I knew about this existence, I could have in a better way predict. Understand what's going on, and and maybe try to prove to anyone that actually wants to know that these are all lies. But that's not the only reason. There are other reasons. I should speak about it in a while. Why it was so important that I will not know anything about their existence. Now, another thing which should be said, that throughout my journey since 2019, many times I've studied, I've had all sorts of divinations and reenactments of historical issues and of things that I learned about the history of the subjugation of the Titans in Earth. And sometimes it was not very easy to me to differentiate between things that I understand about the past and the present. And this is something that is I spoke about a lot in the past, because it's characteristics of how divinations and prophecies are actually manifested. That sometimes it's not that easy to understand. What time is when is this thing happening? Is it a million years ago, or 1,000 years ago, or during the 1970s, or maybe something in the future, or maybe right now? And maybe the answer is that the whole question is is not is not defined like correctly. It's like that maybe in order to answer the question, you need to like reevaluate like your presumptions, like your like I would say like the foundations of what of your thought, because sometimes the answer is that like all of the answers are in some way true. So this also makes things a little bit harder for me to like it created difficult for me, even though it was important specifically because of like the previous, as I say, the 70s show, as I said many times. That it was important that I understand of things that happened like in Israel and in the international community during the 1970s and the early 80s, before I was born, because these were more than like there were other many like historical issues that are important, but during the time many like things occurred that are directly related to whatever I do here on Earth. So it was important that I learned about them as well. And yes, it created a little bit of confusion. It created a little bit of confusion, but that was necessary, because you couldn't. I could have learned about it, this stuff. It's not part of like formal history. No one will speak about it. And many people like actually live right now and are part of the Israeli intelligence right now do not know almost anything about it. Either because they don't tell you things in the Israeli intelligence if you don't need to know them. So it's all kept a secret even from the people inside intelligence agencies, or maybe because they just don't care, because most of them are just chimpanzees, like the ones that that are like that you can hear like just in these rooms, like just to me. These kind of chimpanzees, why do they care about what happened like in the 1970s? So you can't, like, no one can tell you anything about it. So it's difficult to learn, but it was important. Now another issue, it was actually created many difficult for me, and I spoke about it several times in the past, and it was very, until this day, it's something that I admit that it's like a difficult part of the puzzle, but eventually I understood it. But it was very, very difficult part to understand. Like is that I understood it. Actually, there are actually four kinds, like at least 4 kinds of like sentient beings in Earth right now. At least 4, and this created a hell of like and that it created a lot of like a lot of confusion, because there are Homo sapienses. This I understood. Also, there are what I call titans, which are creatures mostly females, if not predominantly females, and they arrive from another planet. Most probably Venus. Like I'm almost certain, and I spoke about it like years ago, why I think it's Venus. Like I wrote about it and spoke about it. But I actually, to this moment, I don't have a proof. It might not be Venus at all. I don't have a proof. I've never been there, and I've never seen like photographs. And I've like, the photographs, there are amazingly small amount of actually photographs from the surface of Venus, and most certainly they are 100% fake by the Soviets. Most certainly they are fakes by the Soviets, and there are very few of them actually, because they sent like huge amount of Venera probes, like it's 20 years, but they always have always the camera didn't open, or it was there, or I don't know, there was always like a malfunctioning with this part or that part, and so eventually after like so many probes, like throughout 20 years of one of the most amazing projects in the history of mankind, the Venera Soviet project. After all this time, it's like there is 3 still photographs from the surface of Venus. It's like amazingly low amount, like small amount of photographs, and all of them are certainly fake. So I have no idea how it actually looks like, at all, and I've never been there, and since it's traveling like using a technology that is unknown to humans and does not require actual spaceships, theoretically it could be anywhere. Like, I don't know. It doesn't have to be Venus. It's just that there are many reasons why it's probably Venus, and I spoke about them and wrote about it in the past. So it's not like the correct like time and place to reiterate. But anyway, they arrived from another planet, probably Venus, and I call them Titans. Now, there is another creature which is myself. And this type is actually the one that, I mean, almost everyone denies its existence. And until now, I'm not really sure why. I mean, I think it's got all sorts of reasons, and probably it's not only one reason, but it's got all sorts of reasons. But because they know that I'm special, and they hate me because of I'm special, and they torment me and they abuse me, like not only in Israel, in other places as well. So I mean, they know that I'm special, but I mean, they deny it with all their heart, like for so long, and I just, I mean, it's so difficult for me to understand why, but I mean, that's the way it is, and probably for several different reasons. So this is a third, I would say, type that I call them, as you know, I call them the cherubs. Like I mean, of course, like as a reference to, you know, the biblical and like Near Eastern, like historical, I mean, mythological creatures. But there is also another type, which I call clones, and I spoke about them quite a bit in the past. And to this day, it was very difficult. I mean, it's always was very difficult to me to actually say, I mean, what they are, and because I understood that they are different than, of course, me, that they are different than Homo sapiens, they are different than Titans, and also many times people in Israel actually, I mean, thought that I am one of them, like one of the clones, and I understood that they are treated as garbage. So I mean, people treat me as garbage because they think that I'm one of them, even though, I mean, it's not that they care that I'm not one of them. I mean, they treat me, I mean, for whatever reason, I mean, they treat me as garbage. But I mean, many of them justify it by the supposedly justifiable, I don't know. Like they justify it like among themselves as by that I'm like one of the clones. So I mean, it's okay, it's necessary to treat me like garbage. But I didn't understand like what actually are they. And for a lot of time, my thought on the matter is that they are actually Titans that underwent some kind of like a transformation. Because I understand that the Titans are, I mean, they are very close to humans, but they don't have the same like biology. So perhaps they can like, I mean, transform themselves, like, I mean, like phases of life, like, you know, cocoon, or, and you know, and like there is larva and cocoon and all sorts of that. So of like flies and all sorts of, so butterflies, and so maybe there's like a different like stage of the Titan. But I would say that I do not think that is completely true. I think that these clones are actually probably in somewhat they're like, I mean, transformation, but not specifically of Titans, but of humans, like of Homo sapienses. And that this transformation actually came to be because of the, I mean, it was obvious to me that, I mean, for many years now there is kind of like, I mean, hybridization between the species, but not that one that occurred that takes place by sexual relationships and creating offspring, something that probably can't like happen, I guess. But in any case, I mean, this kind of sexual relationship is very dangerous. So I mean, people don't do such things. But I mean, there was another process of hybridization that takes place by like Homo sapiens like consuming, like eating, like barbarous is my sound, but I mean that's the way it is. They are barbarously like eating the bodily fluids of the Titans, and also the other way one can also happen. And the Titans consume my own bodily fluids, and they do it like in a secret, in a very disgusting way. And that there is something to do with this exchange of bodily fluids that, I mean, creates like different species. Like, I mean, I have no idea how biologically this happens, but I understood that this kind of create like new creatures. So I thought maybe the clones are actually, I mean, somewhat related to, I mean, the consumption of this material. And it's true, it is. So it's not that they come from another planet, but they are a transformation of like Homo sapiens, perhaps also Titans. I'm not sure about that. But certainly of Homo sapiens is that, I mean, they have eaten this stuff and other things happen to them, and eventually they become these creatures, which I call clones. All of this, I mean, creates a lot of confusion. But let's speak about the Titans right now, the females. First of all, there were also males, but they were treated in such a horrible way that they just either murdered or committed suicide, because like Israelis, there is no end to how, like to the torture, and you cannot, like, just by speaking about it, it makes you cry. Like, the things that they've done are amazingly cruel. And as I said, the cruelest of them were actually living in the 50s and the 60s. This was actually the worst time. Not that it's an excuse, like, for the way that they actually act now. The way that they act now also, justifiably, brought them their destruction. They deserve the state will be annihilated. But just, so you understand that it's not that, in the past it was better. It was actually worse in the past. And their cruelty is manifested, as I said many times, to the fullest extent in the method, which does not require that much technology. It's amplified tremendously by smartphones and monitors, but the method could have practiced like in 50s, because it was invented actually more than 100 years ago. The method relies on the victims he will live like inside like the community where his abusers live. It's a way to terrorize your own people, the people that actually your own citizens, people that live among you and are part of your system, and they don't have no defense against the boot of the state. The method is not used. It can be used abroad, by groups, Mossad, but it's much more difficult and it's much less effective. The effectiveness of the method is it's because it's used here in Israel and also in the Palestinian Authority, which is de facto it's like Israel because of reasons that I spoke about quite a bit not long ago, and that that the tortured people are completely under the boot of the state. And no one can help them. The judges, the police, no one can help them. They are completely at the mercy of the community that surrounds them, and that and that many people are part of are part of the secret police. So it can only occur on places where there is a huge part of the population which is actually related to the intelligence community or the police or to the different forces, which is true to places like Israel, of course, and Soviet Union and Nazi Germany, and the best kind of, and the best of the best, as they say, the best of the best. So the wars actually occurred in the 50s and 60s, and many of them committed suicide because, the Israelis there is no, it's the only thing that they like more than, causing someone to commit suicide, the only thing that they have more pleasure than that is if they succeed in making, fucking someone's brain to the extent that they show, homosexual or pedophile tendencies in people that they did not show them such tendencies all their life. This is the only thing that will make them happier. If they succeed in that, in taking someone which is completely, but with only manifested heterosexual tendencies all his life, and they after long torture, he start to manifest to demonstrate homosexual and pedophile tendencies. This is the best day in the office that can be for the Israelis. But secondary to that if they actually make him commit suicide. That's the way they are. That's reality. This is reality. This is reality. So after that, so much torture, there were just weren't left males left here. They suffered so many that they became like an almost extinct species here on Earth. Now it should be said that sometimes the females can change their form to look like a male, like they become transgenders, and this is also one of the lies that many people in Israel believe about me, that I am such a female that transformed to male, and this is it's so ridiculous that I have no enough. I don't even know how to prove that it's wrong because it's so manifestly wrong. It's just wrong. It's just stupid and wrong. But yeah, some people believed in that along the way. I don't know what to say, but yeah, that's the way it is. They believe that. So and those titans, I understood that they are that there are quite a bit of these in Israel, and that they are part of the intelligence community, even though not all of them are part of the intelligence community, but some of them are actually are in part of it, and that they are used to create like slave race, like to bring more titans from Venus, which was, I mean, a traditional job of the males when they existed, but it took so much like effort from them, like mental effort, and like it was, I mean, they were forced by the Israelis to commit cruelties, and it devastated them, and like their I would say fate, like during the 50s and 60s, was so bad, so horrible, and so cruel that, I mean, they just, many of them just committed suicide. And the Israelis, of course, use that like as an excuse to create a mythology that they have magically, that they just like to commit suicide, or that they do it like they're programmed to do it like magically, so like, and that it's like natural for them to commit suicide like at a certain point. No, it's not natural for them. It's just that they were tortured like unimaginably like by the Israelis, and they, I mean, and in a way that, I mean, no one can help them, and they couldn't like speak about it even, because, I mean, it's all a secret, and no one could help them. And it's, again, it was everybody that they knew, like, I mean, everyone that, I mean, that were around them, like, I mean, were part of this torture. So they just, I mean, yes, so sometimes such creatures, I mean, eventually sometimes they commit suicide, and that happened quite a bit. Also many were fell to crime and set in prison for quite a bit. And normally I would say that, I mean, the normal share in life, like, I mean, their usual lives, like a typical life of these creatures, were incredibly different than mine. And I thank God for that. Like, I mean, I understood very well that, I mean, my life story is not in any way similar to a typical one of these. That not that, I mean, it was, I didn't like grow up like not that like all my days were happy, like, since it wasn't like that. I mean, I wasn't born with a silver spoon, and I had my own share of struggles and like mishappening during my life, and many sad parts. But overall, I had like I grew up in a very like educated and pretty well off environment, and like I was given many opportunities, like as a child and as a like a young adult, and I understood that it was not like typical for them at all. Like, I mean, there is nothing, I mean, that I couldn't like possibly relate. I mean, if I met them, like, probably we would have had very little to speak about, because they I mean, they were like subhuman creatures. I mean, typically, and many, I mean, resorted to crime and committed suicide, and yeah, I mean, this is all thanks to the Israeli system, like to the hospitality of the Israelis. That's the way it is. Anyway, regarding the females, let's speak about what's going on right now, or, I mean, during the last couple of years, because we cannot speak too much about history, even though it's important, but let's focus on what's going on right now. So I understood that in addition to the issue of the, like, I mean, the exchange of bodily fluids is something that the humans really like for several different reasons. Now, I'm not. There is a very important issue that took me a lot of time to understand, because, I mean, there was so much disinformation around it. But I think that I understand it now better than before. But maybe I will not be like 100% accurate, and I admit that it is such a secret that, I mean, that it's very difficult to actually, like, if you're not part of the Israeli community, like intelligence community, it's incredibly difficult to understand what's going on. And I wouldn't be surprised if even within the intelligence community of Israel, like many people, many just do not understand reality like accurately. Because I understood very well that, I mean, many of like the basic questions and the most important questions, even people inside the intelligence community that will never speak to you, like, I mean, about it, like, I mean, they couldn't even, like, even if they wanted, they couldn't like tell you the correct answers, because they also have this information. it's incredibly distributed organization like the Mossad, the Shabak, and they, I mean, like as a paradigm, they like, one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing. Like it's like the organizational structure is like that. I mean, no one knows what nothing about nothing. Like that's the way that they act, presumably because they know to enhance like information like security, but ultimately because they are all bunch of alligators that that's the way alligators act. Lizard people, how would you expect them to act in any other way than like as a group of like predators, like that anyone compete with the other guy over like a stinking chunk of meat? That's the way they are. But I understood that those titans, females, have some kind of psychic powers. And this is very general definition because it took me a lot of time to understand what's really going on. It's very difficult to understand what's going on if you're not, if people just don't tell you the truth, like, which is probably very rare, even, as I said, within the Israeli intelligence. They have psychic abilities. But, so what exactly are these psychic abilities? I'll tell you what I understood very quickly that they do not have, and they cannot do. And that is, they cannot read your mind. They cannot read my mind. Now, how do I know that they cannot read my mind? For several reasons. First of all, I understood very well that one of their main objectives up to this day, up to now, and throughout like many years, like many years, for many years and up until now, their main objectives is first, that I will show pedophile and homosexual tendencies, even though I have none, and I was always, had been and still is 100% heterosexual, and that always only like demonstrated heterosexual behavior. But that it's like a major objective of them that I to try to like using the method to convert me, because that's what they do. And second, there are other reasons which I will touch, I will speak about in a moment, but in second, they also want me to do actions that will cause me to be categorized as mentally insane. So I'll be hospitalized in like mental institution. Things like trying to commit suicide or doing all sorts of like incredibly like crimes like hideous crimes that will prove that I'm like mentally insane. This was the second objective. And as I said, just 5-10 minutes ago, this aligns very well with what they like to do anyway. So what they like to do and the way that they treat people in general, it's also is perfectly aligns with what they're planned with. Specifically regarding me. But it shouldn't be like a surprise to you because they just told you that that's what they like to do in general. But I understand that they want me to be insane, like, or to show like insanity, and they're desperately trying to do it. Now, there is no better way to actually make a person insane than to demonstrate to him in unquestionable way that you can read his mind or her mind. If you have this ability, the ability to read the person's mind, and you are near him, or anyone that is under your command is near him, and I'm always near people that are under the command of Israeli intelligence. So you can tell them to speak, to say all sorts of stuff, or to do all sorts of action that will positively prove without a doubt that you can read their mind. And they will know it. These actions and these words will actually show you that they read your mind, and this will devastate them. There is no, nothing worse, almost psychologically, there is nothing worse you can do to a person, like if you want to actually destroy him like mentally and like to make him insane, than to prove to him like again and again. And why should there be a limit to how many times you can do it? And nothing stops you because it's not something that you can prove just between you and him. So using million ways, the intelligence people of Israel could have proved to me million times that they can read my mind, and this would devastate me. And for certainly, it gave me such a hit that maybe I would have really got insane. But certainly, they could have expected such a thing will make me insane, and so they could have tried it, but they never did. Not in an unquestionable way. what they did do many times is all sort of like tricks, like I mean, like magic tricks of like like I mean the characteristics of like magicians, and all sort of like I mean like mentalists, they're called in the like in modern terminology, and in general, showmen, show people is to try to trick me, sometimes in gentle ways and sometimes in very crude and like I mean and like I would say unintelligent way, to try to convince me to think that they can read my mind. But this is very different than proving to me that they can read my mind. Actually, this proves to you that they cannot read your mind, actually. Because if they could, why do they do all these magic tricks? If you could read my mind, you could you could have like just proved it to me many times, and you could do it like there is no limit to how much time you could do it, because it's not like I can go to the police and say they read my mind, and I cannot like change anything. And presumably if they can, so why don't you just not prove to me again and again? But they never did. They many times they did all sorts of like tricks. And again, sometimes like I would say gentle tricks, and sometimes incredibly stupid and like brutal, like and unintelligent tricks that certainly are aimed at me, thinking that maybe they can read my mind. But of course, this is again, it's just a proof that they cannot. Now, another thing that I understood is that if they could read my mind, this would have made many, like a huge part of the method, irrelevant. And I understood that they employ so much people. They use so many efforts, and like so much assets of the organizations are wasted. Like so much taxpayer money is wasted on like applying the tricks of the method, which is like very intensive, like labor intensive, as I said many times. The method is something that is the characteristics of an organization with a lot of like human power and not a lot of like quality and not many qualifications. Like they have many junk, like heaps of junk humans, but there's typically very low quality humans. And this and the method relies on that, because it's something that you repeatedly do also like stupid things like again and again and again, and you waste a lot of time just because showing presence of like your people in all sorts of places. Like you need to be present in many like physical presence. You need people, like you need a lot of people, but presumably not ones that you need to pay a lot to them. Like the wages are not that high, and also these kind of people will probably cannot be used in a better way. Like you do not waste their time when you just tell them to act like as an ornamental monk, like for like several good months, like in a place. If you don't know what it is, really Google it, ornamental monk. You don't waste their time, because it's not that like if they weren't like employed as ornamental monks, they would have decrypt the Iranian like codes of like the supposedly, I don't know, the nuclear project or whatever. No, it's like either they do that or they work like no. I don't want to offend anyone who's like, but these are garbage people. They don't have like very intelligent alternative to what they do. So they employ all sort of like scumbags with a huge variety of like actions that could have just been completely redundant if they could read a person's mind. Like huge parts of what they do are just, that makes, why do they even do it? If they could read the person's mind. So they cannot read your mind. So what psychic powers do they have actually? So it's a question, because, and this I admit is a little bit difficult to actually understand, not only because it's such a secret, but also even within the intelligence community, but also because a huge part of what the intelligence people are doing, not only in Israel, this is true like in general, is trying to influence the thinking of people. Like propaganda, and is a huge part. And this was like that. Since the 1930s or 40s. And it's just like that. Many people don't know it, but it's not a secret. It is known that that's the way it is. Like the whole thing that you see, like James Bond movies and whatever, like the Jason Bourne stuff. It's like maybe these things like similar things exist, but they are only comprised like a very small chunk of actually like the entirety of the work of the volume of work which is done by intelligence communities, both like if there's external intelligence like CIA, MI6, Mossad, or internal like the FBI or the Shabak. This is only very like a small part, but a huge part is what they call, like, I think in Soviet terminology it's propaganda, but it's like all sorts of like modern like definitions or modern terminology. But ultimately it deals with changing like the perceptions and like the inclinations of humans, both of individuals and of groups. Like both are important, like from the intelligence, like in the services point of view. They try to influence both like specific like people that are of specific like interest, and also groups of people, and sometimes even like complete countries. And sometimes, and many times it's their own country, but not only their own country. Sometimes it's other countries as well. So that's what they do. It's a huge part. So in some way you can say, arguably you can say that that psychic powers are something that they, in a very broad term, they even Homo sapiens possess, like without Titans, because that's what presumably. That's what they do in the intelligence community. They try to change like your mind without you knowing about it. So it's not psychic powers like in a way that we consider like supernatural. But what does supernatural means? Everything that you see, like everything that can be positively proved is part of nature. So, nothing is supernatural. Besides God. There is no supernatural things out of like God. God is supernatural, but everything else is natural. Like maybe you don't understand nature completely. So in the wide sense, like in the general sense, in any way, that's what intelligence, not only in Israel, all over the world, that's what they do. They try to change people's mind in all sorts of like ways, both like individuals and groups and complete states. And this is still true. It's not only things like related to the heydays of the KGB. This is also true today. So then the Titans have like additional thing that they can do in this respect that is different than what humans do, but they do it with humans. So the intelligence communities, specifically those of Israel, they a lot of what they do is to change like the perceptions or the thought of people, both individual and groups, and on top of that they have like the Titans that serve in the ranks that also do it. And many times it's like in a synergetic way. That they work together many times. They work together like in two ways. Both that in one way of working together is that they employ both the usual ways that intelligence communities are employing in order to change perceptions, and also the alien ways. Also the alien way, so they use both ways, and it's also that sometimes they work together as an operator and an actor or a puppet. Okay, so before I will try to try to define what kind of psychic powers actually they have, which I said they cannot read your mind. Before that, I will speak a little bit about the combined nature of the work, which is very typical to the Israeli intelligence community. So, in Israel, and probably in other places, because nothing is invented in Israel, Israelis just take the worst thing and just excel at them, but in the worst practices. But they didn't invent almost anything, I guess. So it's very common to, and I understood it since 2019, and also written about it several times, that it's common that the intelligence service, it's through both to the Mossad and to the Shabak. And I also understood very quickly that actually the difference between the Shabak and the Mossad is much smaller than people think. That in Israel it's kind of like you are born to think that they are completely different organizations. That supposedly the Mossad is it's kind of like all sorts of Mission Impossible heroes that work as undercover agents with all sorts of secret identities in all sorts of exotic countries. And they assassinate people and do something like that, or they crack vaults and things like that. And well, the Shabak are actually also sort of like goons that are mostly what they do is that they interrogate like Palestinians and like break their bones in order to to crush their spirit and to like supposedly prevent Palestinian terror. And supposedly this is completely different, and both are very important from the Israeli perspective. But supposedly it's a completely different thing. What's a group of like goons that their only special things about some of them is presumably that they speak Arabic, which is also not that special in Israel, but okay, somehow it's special because most people do not speak Arabic in Israel. So presumably some of them speak Arabic, but besides that, mostly they're just goons that break like the bones of like teenagers in Ramallah and the Gaza Strip. And so what they got to do is, with all those of like, heroic, like, undercover agents like all over the world. So the answer is that, that actually both of organizations, what they actually do is not that and not that, this thing. It's just not true. That both of these actions, both of these things actually exist, but it's just small things of what actually both of organizations do. And that most of what actually both of these organizations do is very similar. And that in many cases they actually compete with each other, and that it's actually there is like hatred between the organization, and that this is actually not that special, and it is actually a norm in many countries all over the world. It's actually not a curiosity at all. In the context of intelligence services, this is actually the norm in many places. That that they compete with each other, and that many people think that it's actually like it's good that it's like that. By design, not a posteriori, like it's like a reality that you should accept, because that's like the way it went. But even if they could have like theoretically prescribe how countries should actually run. If they had like the magical ability to be like a philosopher king and like to write how it should a theoretical country should actually be like be operated, they would have intentionally put the intelligence communities of the same country in competition with each other. Many people think that it's actually good that it's like that. I don't know why. Maybe because they think that maybe an excuse to such a paradoxical like situation, which is so common in this world, is that they both like all organizations possess too much power, and when they compete in the same place, it's limiting their power, maybe. And maybe another thing that could be said, if you really try to stretch it, I'm not sure it's true, but if you really try to stretch it, you can say that, at least in Israel, but probably in many other places, the prime minister, he receives like a general, intelligence report. I'm not sure how to translate it to English, but it's like a very high level intelligence report. He receives it like from like a man, from like a military intelligence that in Israel is very strong. Like it's stronger than usual in most like places. In Israel, the military intelligence is very, very dominant, which is not the normal situation. But anyway, from Amman, from like the military intelligence, and also from the Shabak, which is internal, and Mossad. And also there are additional bodies, both historically and currently, that are of lesser significance. But these are the three significant like people, and this intelligence report is, even though it's supposedly deals with, it comes from different organizations. Ultimately, it does cover the same, somehow the same area, because if the prime minister wants to know a very pressing question, very high level question, does the Iranian plan an attack against us, or should we accept, should we prepare to a new intifada very soon, or very high level questions, then all the three will give him an answer, even though they deal with different areas. So all the three will give them answer to this question, and so presumably it might be beneficial that he will get that for such important questions they will get answers from different bodies that are not in coalition, because if they were in coalition they will always accept the same answer, because they will just speak with each other before they give him the report, so they will because they want to look good, to portray themselves in good, in a good way. But this will be presumably anti anti-productive from like the prime minister like point of view, because he doesn't want like to just receive like like the same answer from always, like, because so why does he need like all of them if from his or her point of view, it could be beneficial to get different answers, and if they are, in what better way to actually ensure that at least sometimes you will get different answers than to create organizations that hate each other and fight each other, presumably. And again, this is not all. This is not in specifically Israel. This is the way it is in many places. That's the way it is. So, what they actually do is not that different. They all are theater operators. Their main thing is to conduct theater shows that are always aimed to change some people's behavior or some people's thinking or like attitudes. And again, this could be done to groups of people or to like individuals. And the way that they do it is that they, at least in Israel, is that they send their groups maybe you could call them rings or cells. Anyway, groups of people, and these groups are actually in Israel. They are in great competition with each other. They many times, many hardships that I had during my life, many like mishappening and like very cruel things that happened to me. Only after years I understood that actually they were the result of like fighting between different groups of intelligence, like community that fought over like me as an asset. And that my life was significantly hampered, and I suffered like from money loss and torture and emotional damage just because of these different groups that fought with each other of gaining access to me and the right to abuse me. That's the way it is. It probably still is. Just to show you, what kind of a cool like lizard people society I live in all my life. So each such group is, of course, is comprised of like people that are mostly just actors, like puppets, like the ones that you hear in as a background to these videos. These are puppets, they are speakers. They operate as taxidermy. Like they took humans, they just the taxidermy them. Like they took everything, all their interiors, and just threw it to the garbage, and instead they placed a speaker, like a computer speaker or a stereo system speaker in their mouth, and they place like a chip in like a cochlear chip in their ear, and they just speak whatever they need to say. Using the smartphone. But even before the smartphone, there were other ways to actually to do it, all sorts of technological ways that are very easily to communicate with this cochlear chip. And so other people are saying all sorts of ridiculous infantile scripts and ridiculous texts that they speak, and those puppets, the taxidermies that have nothing inside them, but they look like humans. They look like humans, and it's very easy to actually, if you're not like me, that I have so much experience, because they surround me all the time. But for the uninitiated person, or for people like normal people, these puppets that they look just like humans, but there is nothing inside of them. It's like, saw it. I would say, what you put inside the taxidermy is to the volume, like bits of wood, chopped wood. I saw it. So you feel that the taxidermy, so it will keep the volume. So but it's just a skin, and crushed wood inside it, and the speaker and the cochlear chip. And these are most of the people that are around me all the time, especially here. The people that you hear shouting, even in this video, are taxidermies. They have nothing inside. It's not only that they don't have brain; they have nothing at all. It's just wood, chipped wood and speaker. They're Homo sapienses, most of them, almost all of them. And I get to it in a bit. Originally they were Homo sapienses. They were born almost all of them were born Homo sapienses. But at some point during their life, they were taxidermied by the Israeli intelligence. Like everything that inside of them was kind of like surgery was taken out, thrown in the garbage. And instead of it, they placed like chopped in the sword, like chopped wood, like remnants of chopped wood inside them, so they will look like with the normal volume of Homo sapiens. And most importantly, they placed like a speaker in their mouth, which is the most important and only important organ in their body, and the cochlear chips in their in their ear, and of course they supply them with smartphones, so the cochlear chip will get the script, the ridiculous script, and they just say the script. That's what they do. This is the majority of the people that surround for a long time now. So these people are mostly Homo sapiens. I said mostly they are homosexual and pedophiles. For a reason that I don't want to get into it now, because it's another issue that, let's not get into it. I spoke about that in the past, but that's the way it is. Now, they also have operators. Operators are the ones that are actually, saying the script, and many of them are actually writing the scripts, but not necessarily. It could be different people. But mostly it's the same people that actually write the script and actually, uttering the script, like using, the cochlear chip. The uttering, they say, they invent on all the infantile text that the puppets are shouting at you, and of course they sit in other places. Can be very close here, or can be other places. I don't know where they sit. It can be wherever they want. Using technology, it doesn't even matter where they are, but they are not part of the show. They are behind the curtains. Now, at some point I understood that typically in the Israeli intelligence, the operators are not humans, but they are, traditionally it's a job that is carried by the titans, and that the puppets are, the taxidermies are mostly they are humans. They are like Homo sapiens, and this creates a little bit of a problem, because the homosexuals and pedophiles are males, and the operators are women. Even though if they can change their appearance, their default appearance is that of a woman. But this is not that big of a deal, because two reasons. First, most of the jobs, it's a theater show. This kind of theater, it creates much more job opportunities for male actors than women. Probably because, maybe because mostly it's, they deal with the Arab environment where, it's maybe it's, it's kind of it requires movies and TV shows that, that most of the actors are men, because, that's the way it is, for all sorts of cultural reasons. This is also true inside of Israel. That, there is much more job opportunities in this theater show for male actors. So the second reason is that, yes, sometimes the Titans also play a role in acting when females are needed. But initially it was a curiosity to me, and to this point I'm not sure entirely what's the reason. But it seems that this actually, to my surprise, it makes sense. So I'll stop now with video, and soon I will continue, because I as you know, I don't want videos to be much other than 1 hour, so I'll continue just in a minute.